A government shutdown averted. A former lawmaker pleading guilty. Plus, negative attacks begin in the governor's race, and more. From the television studios at WFYI, it's Indiana Week in Review for the week ending November 17th, 2023.
Indiana Week in Review is made possible by the supporters of Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations.
This week, the U.S. House and Senate overwhelmingly voted for a continuing resolution that ensures the federal government will remain funded through the end of the year. The temporary spending plan crafted by new U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson extends funding for veterans programs, transportation, housing, agriculture, and energy through January 19th, while spending for other agencies, including the Defense and State Departments, runs until February 2nd. That sets up a crunch early next year to pass multiple spending bills, or agencies face an across-the-board 1% funding cut come April. A majority of Republicans and almost all Democrats in the House and Senate supported the stopgap spending bill, but a majority of Indiana's Republican delegation opposed it. Senator Mike Braun and Representatives Rudy Yackham, Jim Banks, Victoria Spartz, and Aaron Houchin voted no. Is this a big win for new House Speaker Mike Johnson? It's the first question for our Indiana Week in Review panel. Democrat Ann DeLaney. Republican Mike O'Brien. John Schwantes, host of Indiana Lawmakers, and Whitney Downard, senior reporter for the Indiana Capital Chronicle. I'm Indiana Public Broadcasting State House Bureau Chief Brandon Smith. Mike O'Brien, compared to just a few weeks ago when all of this fell apart for then Speaker Kevin McCarthy, this was averted with relatively minimal drama, it seems. How significant is that for Johnson?
I don't want to be naive and say we learned our lesson. We'll never do that again. But I think the proximity of it certainly made an impact on it, and the fact that it took so long to be behind closed doors go figure out like who's the speaker going to be. So let's maybe give him a shot here. I thought the Indiana delegation was pretty consistent. Rudy Yackham's new, still relatively, right? He doesn't have a long history with this, but I thought the others have been very consistent in. Look, we're going to vote for these continuing resolutions, but not unless it's in exchange for a significant plan to reduce the spending curve.
Right.
Yackham's more of an old school guy. I think we'll come to find out. Just haven't known him for a long time. And his comments were, we got to get out of this. We're running out of money every 90 days, and we actually need to restore ourselves to a predictable budget process that is on a calendar. He's a business guy, right? He's like, this is chaos. We can't do this every 90 days. So I thought it was for different reasons. Hopefully, I think the proximity of the Thanksgiving holiday probably get everyone getting out of town, help push it along. But
yeah, to that end, I mean, this pushes it through to January, February, or a little later. And is the fact that the holidays were coming up maybe a little bit a part of what greased the wheels?
I think actually, for once, Mike is right that they couldn't have another confrontation like that publicly. So close together. But the rubber's going to hit the road in January. And you've got those right-wing crazies in the Republican Party with Mike Braun and Victoria Spartz and all the rest of them. Rather shut the government down than make an agreement to keep everybody paid in the interim. But I don't see them coming forward with a plan that's realistic and that will sell. And I'm not. If I were Mike Johnson, I'd be a little bit worried about what happens in January and February.
To that end, we saw some of the stories, pretty much exactly to your point just a second ago, Mike, which is the idea of Mike Johnson, who got the speakership in like the messiest way possible, that everybody wanted to, because you weren't starting from this place of, for a lot of Republicans, mistrust with, quite frankly, Kevin McCarthy, that with Johnson, for this, they were willing to give him a little just to see what the next steps are. Should we expect this to be as easy going forward?
Absolutely not. I mean, they still haven't figured out anything when it comes to aid for Israel or Ukraine, and if they want to keep that up. Or the border. You know, when Mike Johnson talked about that aid previously, he suggested kind of taking it from what they were going to give to the IRS to help enhance audits for wealthy taxpayers. So I think it's going to just continue being pretty messy. And I think that like Mike said, it was just the Thanksgiving holiday, back-to-back messes, didn't want to repeat.
Yeah, should this be a portent of things to come at all?
I don't know. I mean, he had a good weekend that nobody elbowed him in the kidneys, and nobody
which increasingly seems like it's possible.
Nobody threatened to beat him up and removed his wedding ring, so when he made contact with his face, it wouldn't do damage to his hand. which of course happened in other corridors of power.
This is the other side of the building.
Other side of the building, in one case. The latter, not the former. But good for him now, but there's still plenty of time for things to go off the rails, and I would guess that they would. But there is a spending agreement, again, naive, that was hammered out, way back in the halcyon days. And theoretically, there is a starting point, which does probably, in terms of the court of public opinion, give Democrats an upper hand that we have this deal that was in place, Republicans agreed to it, et cetera, et cetera.
McCarthy reneged.
I will say, I think what you said about Yakima, I think if there's any bipartisan agreement that we can find in Congress, it should be, can we get a little back to normal when it comes to the budget process? But I don't know if that's realistic, at least not in the near future. Time now for viewer feedback. Each week we post an unscientific online poll question, and this week's question is the latest stopgap spending bill to avert a federal government shutdown a win for new House Speaker Mike Johnson? A yes or B no. Last week we asked you whether State Treasurer Daniel Elliott was right to invest heavily in Israel. Just 21% of you said yes, 79% said no. If you'd like to take part in the poll, go to WFYI.org/IWIR and look for the poll. A former Indiana state lawmaker is set to plead guilty to federal corruption charges related to the state gaming industry. U.S. Attorney Zachary Myers announced that Shelbyville Republican Sean Eberhart agreed to plead guilty to charges that he accepted promises of a job with Spectacle Gaming with a $350,000 salary in return for his support of a 2019 bill. The measure in question allowed Spectacle to move 2 casino licenses on Lake Michigan to other areas, quote, beneficial to Spectacle. The plea agreement does not include a specific sentence. Federal sentencing guidelines for the offense level are between 37 and 46 months. The government did agree to recommend a sentence on the lower range based on Eberhart accepting responsibility. He'll also pay $60,000 in restitution, which was his legislative salary. Ann DeLaney, Spectacle is out of the picture when it comes to Indiana's current gaming industry, in part because of other federal legal issues involving former State Senator Brent Waltz and then some Spectacle executives. So in terms of the ripple effect of this latest development and potentially more to come, it seems, it mentions co-conspirators, it doesn't say who they are yet. But do you think because Spectacle is out of the industry in Indiana, the ripple effect is relatively contained to the current industry in Indiana?
I don't think so, because now you know that there are entities out there with resources looking carefully at everything that happens in this context of gaming. And so I don't know what comes after this. The charging affidavit itself is vague. I mean, really vague, except to spell out that they have emails and audio and
text messages,
which tells you that they've got something on somebody, and there will be people out there that if they're not hearing federal footsteps behind them, they need hearing aids. So I don't know who comes after this. I assume, since this has been dragging out, I mean, the first two individuals charged have already served their sentences, and it's basically the same kind of thing with the same spectacle. So I don't know what comes next. But I think if you were in the gaming industry in Indiana, you'd be paying very close attention to the fact that the U.S. Attorney is looking very carefully at this, and hopefully we won't have a repeat.
Well, I don't think there's any question that the Gaming Commission is paying close attention to it. They win awards for the work they do in trying to keep things honest.
Yeah, but they haven't imposed fines on some of the
things.
Well,
but they basically forced Spectacle out of the state.
They did that, but because of the ridiculous legislation, never mind separation of powers, where now any fines imposed by any agency have to go through the Budget Committee. That's not been on the agenda. Why is that, if we're really looking carefully at this?
I want to get back to that, but in terms of, again, sort of the same question.
Sure.
We expect more. Certainly we expect more to come as this unfolds. But is it going to be, I think we were just saying before we started this topic, in the rearview mirror, essentially?
It feels like it, but that doesn't mean it won't have an impact on what's currently happening. One thing that I want people to understand is we do a gaming bill about once every decade in Indiana, and that's because there are so many people involved, because it affects so many industries, it affects communities, it affects local agreements where gaming revenue and gaming communities goes to the city. It goes to kids going to college. It goes to horsemen, horse farmers, because we have a horseman industry, horse racing industry in Indiana. Yeah. So the idea that what's frustrating, and I did work in full disclosure on that bill in 2019, as everybody did. When you're working on a bill like that, it is huge. And it has complications from implications from local government to farmers to casino magnates. Yeah. The idea that, and the frustrating thing I think for people in our part of the political world, is that two guys could cut some deal like this on the back end and it's going to make a difference on the outcome of that bill. And that's just not true. I mean, they haven't been through several of these over the last 15 years. There's so many diverse interests involved in that have to come together, and it's a puzzle to put together because it's a huge industry in Indiana. And it's so the hubris in this that you would cut a deal like that and think that you're actually
you had a deal that took a $100 million fine down to what, $20 million in tax incentives in the last minute.
Right. No, and I understand that. And that's why it makes that's the frustrating thing. It makes the whole thing look
corrupt.
But this is what struck me too. First, it was Congressman. I keep saying Congressman. He didn't win that race.
Right, and he was never going to win that race.
Okay, and that's exactly my point. So this was State Senator Brent Walz, who wasn't on, as far as I remember, wasn't on the Public Policy Committee in the Senate and had no influence over gaming legislation, and wasn't, quite frankly, particularly influential in that caucus. And then you had Sean Eberhart, who was more influential in the House Republican caucus and was more involved in the gaming industry because of the racino in Shelbyville, where he was from, but he wasn't the chair of the committee. He wasn't the author of the bill. Why are you giving money to these people? And does it, unfortunately, beg the question, is that the only people you gave money to in the state legislature?
Well, it does beg the question. And I think it's an indication of just how high the stakes are here. We're talking about an industry that is huge, billions of dollars. And when we do, Mike's right, when we have these, I'd say they're more than every 10 years, for better or for
big
worse.
Ones. I mean,
the big ones. Really significant.
But I mean, these are opportunities. The stakes couldn't be higher because they're carving up essentially the pot of gold. Yeah. You get this much, you get this much. And when this is not a static industry. It's not as if, well, now everybody has his or her piece, we can sit back and relax because of the complexities that Mike eloquently spelled out.
And so many that are out of Indiana's control because
exactly. When you look at other competitors, but now, and this is not going away because we're going to have the push to take casino gaming, online. We're going to have the push to legalize video lottery terminals. The efforts to protect athletes, college athletes now in this new era of betting. This is all on the horizon, and it's going to be coming up. So until this is a fait accompli and everything is done, which, spoiler alert, is never going to happen, these temptations and these issues will arise.
And more than that, does what happened here with that bill in 2019, John just mentioned it. We thought we were going to see the online gaming and online lottery bill go through last session because there seemed to be so much momentum from it, and then it died. We don't expect that conversation to go away, maybe not in a short session, certainly, but we don't expect it to go away. Is it going to make that, though, exponentially harder to do because there's going to be even more like, okay, is everybody playing the game the right way now? Not that that's a bad thing, but is it going to make it harder?
Yeah, I do think that a lot of lawmakers are probably going to hesitate just a little and say, hey, maybe not this year, let's let the heat die down. But I did want to circle back to what Ann said about the Gaming Commission getting left off of the Budget Committee agenda earlier this week. I was there and I talked to the lawmakers and I asked them, hey, what's up? Why weren't they included? Especially because the Gaming Commission is one of the expedited agencies that has to get their fees and fines approved before the end of the year. And I could only grab Senator Mishler, even though Senator Chris Garton is the big push behind that, from what I can understand. And Senator Mishler wanted to say, he's like, really, this is only about the fees and fines. We are not trying to say anything about how the Gaming Commission is conducting itself. We just want to evaluate how those are calculated.
Well, wouldn't you put that on the agenda to do that?
I guess they wanted more time to do it.
They only have till the end of December.
That's the trick. Yeah.
It's a gamble.
Oh, God.
The first substantive negative strike in the Republican gubernatorial primary dropped this week as Fort Wayne businessman Eric Doden released a video attacking U.S. Senator Mike Braun over a law enforcement issue. The video features Henry County Sheriff John Sproles endorsing Doden while criticizing Braun for offering legislation in 2020 to reform qualified immunity, which largely shields law enforcement officers from lawsuits related to alleged unlawful conduct while on the job.
And when I dared ask him about it, he told me that law enforcement only made up a few thousand votes in this state.
Braun has been endorsed by the National Troopers Coalition, which represents state law enforcement officers across the country, including in Indiana. Meanwhile, former Indiana Commerce Secretary Brad Chambers released a public safety plan this week that includes codifying qualified immunity into state law. John Schwantes, the whole timeline for this particular gubernatorial election has obviously been extended a lot further than normal, but
From one to the other.
Are you still surprised that the attacks like this started this early?
Not necessarily. I think there's a correlation between, in any race, especially a statewide race, the number of qualified, known, well-funded candidates and the amount of comparative or negative advertising. Because in a situation like that, when you have a room chock full of people who all vying for a job and arguably all on more or less even keel in terms of their name ID and their funding, they've got to distinguish themselves. They have to differentiate themselves from the pack. And they've all made some effort, most have made some effort to go out with the autobiographical spots and that show some of the people in the farm fields and the flags waving and the parades. And the churches. At some point, though, and I haven't seen the polling that they presumably have on a regular basis, somebody's saying, we got to make the move, and negative does work. And now there seems to be a greater capacity or appetite for negative, maybe because of what's happened at the national level, than there ever has been in the past. So for all those reasons, I'm not terribly surprised to see it.
The conventional wisdom is that Braun is the front runner, even if it's very close because there's so many candidates. And the conventional wisdom says that despite the fact that Eric Doden has been in this race since before anybody else, has been raising money before anybody else, and has started spending money before pretty much everybody else, that he might be the trailer of the 4 or 5. Does this make him look a little desperate?
Well, that's certainly the tactic that Braun took. Braun punched back and set up a website calling him Desperate Doden, kind of
Trump-esque.
I was going to say adopting something from his political mentor, perhaps. But it shows that I was surprised that Braun even bothered to punch back. If he is considered the front runner, why bother responding and not just saying something about how much you support qualified immunity nowadays or something? But it does look like it's getting messy already, and Braun was quick to put that up. So.
Yeah, let me ask you this in terms of that. Are you surprised Braun responded the way he did?
Yeah. And I don't think his lead, either it isn't as big as people anticipated or it's soft, one or the other. But there's no way to predict with a field this large what's going to happen, okay? And it's going to get to be a food fight before it's over because they have a lot of money and they're going to use it and it's going to be nasty.
If, Mike O'Brien, if you were advising one of these candidates, let's just say hypothetically Suzanne Crouch, we don't expect this to be the end of the back and forth, the negative attacks flying around. If you're Suzanne Crouch, do you feel like you have to start getting in the mix?
Not yet, absolutely not. I mean, like the answer to why did Braun respond the way he did? Well, one, because Doden's got an unlimited amount of money, in a race like this. And the tactic is, okay, if you're pulling me down, I'm not changing the margin. We're all going down, right?
I'm already ahead. You want to pull me down, I'm going to pull you down
too. You're driving my negatives, I'm driving yours, buddy.
Yeah.
And that's...
And then that leaves
everyone
room
listening
for Suzanne.
hates that, really, but they also pay attention to it. And you've got 3 guys that all look the same. They're wealthy businessmen.
White guys.
And so in that, if you're just picking one, you go, well, why wouldn't I just pick Braun? I've heard of that guy. And that's the calculation of voters making right now.
Right.
Or Republican primary voters making right now. So the other 2 have got to change that. And they got to change it by starting to go after him.
All right. Governor Eric Holcomb directed the Indiana Finance Authority this week to take over a study looking into whether water in Tippecanoe County could be used to support a large industrial district in Lebanon known as LEAP. WBAA's Ben Thorpe reports that study was being overseen by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, which faces growing opposition across the region.
Local officials and some state lawmakers have both questioned the IEDC's transparency around the water study and called for any data collected to be submitted for an independent third-party review. David Sanders is a West Lafayette city councilor who introduced a resolution opposing a proposed water pipeline and formed a local group, Stop the Water Steal. He said moving the study away from the IEDC is a step in the right direction.
People contacting their legislators is having an effect. Democracy can work.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the IEDC called the move a, quote, natural next step in taking this study across the finish line.
Whitney, there's been growing concern about this from both sides of the aisle, from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Does this from the governor resolve much?
I really don't think so. I think that Senator Deary actually said it this way. He said, you usually conduct these studies before you announce something like of this scale. And I think that it's interesting that, nobody has really stepped up so much for the Boone farmers who are making these same accusations, but as soon as the Tippecanoe ones, their legislators really bought into it a lot quicker. So it makes me wonder if the IEDC and business folks who were behind this didn't think so much that there would be as much resistance in the Lafayette region. So
I think if you go up to the average Hoosier on the street and you go, do you know much about the Indiana Economic Development Corporation? I don't think you'll have a lot of recognition, although certainly in those communities right now you do. I think far fewer people know who or what the Indiana Finance Authority is. So the same question.
Which is a great way to give them the task of doing it. Because
in that sense, is that what, does that make it the right call to have an agency that nobody knows anything about?
I mean, maybe if you want to say take it out of the public spotlight, put it in an agency that's sort of known as just a bunch of accountants. I don't know if they still have green eye shades, but maybe they'll wear them for the occasion. And it's sort of, because this is a politically charged issue. In fact, and this is a perfect issue to come after the one we just discussed in terms of the race, the gubernatorial race, and the need for these candidates to differentiate themselves. And more than the issue that prompted the first negative ad, I would say this issue is one that has the potential to be a real wedge in terms of dividing candidates. And we've already seen that. Some saying that, this job creation, smart job creation, shovel-ready projects, that's what we're about. Others saying, well, that smacks of some sort of, behind closed doors, elitist, non-transparent, and we've already seen the battle line. So this...
and we saw it even on this story this week. Suzanne Crouch, the lieutenant governor, came out and criticized
the governor.
her governance partner, Eric Holcomb, and said, this isn't far enough. Quite frankly, I don't think he's looking at it this way, but realistically, is Eric Holcomb running out the clock on this? In the sense that, what ultimately happens with LEAP feels like it's going to be up to the next governor.
Well, the next governor's going to own it for sure, which is why you've seen the candidates be so cautious about how they go against it, because they all know one of them's going to have to own it, right. And it's going to have to work. And I think the biggest knock on IEDC owning this and then paying for the study, and then there's criticism because the people that won it paid for the study that said it was fine. Okay, the knock on that, so then you move into the Finance Authority. There is a different set of criteria that IFA's got to look at. They've got to be much more in tune to the debt they're taking on, the obligations they're taking on. What's that doing to the bond market? How does that impact the rest of state government and other projects? Yes. And so Dan Hughey's sitting over there seeing the whole field, including LEAP. But he's got a lot of other considerations he's got to take into place in terms of how this goes forward. And the only other alternative to paying for a study and the government not doing it when it's the government's project is whoever they're going to hire to build it and can benefit from it. And then you're not going to like that either.
To that end, realistically, no matter what study that IFA might come out with, no matter what, unless, for the people who are wary of this right now, unless that study says, no, there's not enough water and we shouldn't do it, is it going to matter what that study says?
Oh, I think it, probably not, actually, okay? But having said that, there are two questions. One is there enough water? And we know that in the central part of the state, we are not as water rich as the northern part of the state is. We already know that. So even if there's enough water, then the question is, who is going to pay to bring that water to that source? One estimate was it was going to be $200 million to provide 20% of the water that's needed. And who's going to treat that water? It isn't only used for cooling, because we don't know what's going in there. We don't know what kinds of projects or what kinds of employers they're hoping to bring. But when we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars to just get, if the water's available, to get it there, who's paying for that? We've already been paying $100,000 an acre for some of this property. And we're not going to find out who's going to pay. Infrastructure is usually the government who sets up the program.
I just said, the next governor is going to obviously make a lot of these decisions, but is the legislature going to step into this in 2024?
I don't know if they'll step in 2024. The window's pretty. They may raise the conversation and put it in the air, but this is a multi-year project.
Right. All right. That's Indiana Week in Review for this week. Our panel is Democrat Ann DeLaney, Republican Mike O'Brien, John Schwantes of Indiana Lawmakers, and Whitney Downard of the Indiana Capital Chronicle. You can find Indiana Week in Review's podcast and episodes at wfyi.org/IWIR or on the PBS app. I'm Brandon Smith of Indiana Public Broadcasting. Join us next time, because a lot can happen in an Indiana week.
The opinions expressed are solely those of the panelists. Indiana Week in Review is a WFYI production in association with Indiana's public broadcasting stations.